Welcome to the Abundance Journey, the show that helps spiritual entrepreneurs create an abundance mindset that accelerates revenue. Secretly, everything you experience in your life is actually abundance. Once you understand how to activate abundance, you find yourself in flow with your business and clients, so it's easy to create the revenue you want. The Abundance Journey is the only show that activates abundance for you, so you enjoy rapid results in your business. Here's your host, the Abundance Ambassador, Elaine Starling.
I got a question for you. What if it was possible to actually create an abundance amplifier so that whatever you're doing not only benefits you, it benefits a lot of other people at the exact same time? Is there truly a way that we can do well by doing good? Well, fortunately, I recently met a really wonderful guy who's at the forefront of this movement. That's why I'm so excited, delighted, and honored that we get to chat with Shel Horowitz today. This guy is amazing. He's an abundance thinker, and for decades, he has put together all these different ideas with corporations, with nonprofits, helping people understand how they can get more through their business for the world. He's created goingbeyondsustainability.com. He works with companies to find that sweet spot where environmental and social good lead to greater abundance and higher profitability. It's not an either or. It's actually a both and at the same time. You can create an abundance amplifier when you know what to look for and you know what to do. Shel's just brilliant. He helps to create, identify, and market products and services that turn hunger and poverty into sufficiency. They turn racism and othering into equity, turns war into peace, catastrophic climate change into planetary balance, and pandemic disease into global health. Yes, this stuff really is possible. This is not pie in the sky. This is not make-believe. I'm not sprinkling fairy dust on you right now. This is the real deal. I can prove it to you. Shel's latest award-winning book, Guerrilla Marketing to Heal the World, is endorsed by Seth Godin, Chicken Soups, Jack Canfield, and lots of other people. Yeah, look at that book. It's amazing. My copy's on order. I can't wait to read it. And check out his other books, too, about creating abundance. He's got The Penny Pinching Hedonist, love that title, and Marketing Without Megabucks. He provides hundreds of ways to have fun and market a business or a product or an organization without spending a ton of money. But fortunately, my favorite thing, Shel loves sharing how you can also make a big difference while generating a healthy profit and having a lot more fun. Welcome, Shel. I'm so happy you could join us today.
Well, thanks. And I get to hang out with Elaine Starling, which is pretty cool, too.
Yeah, Mutual Admiration Society. I promised Shel I wouldn't fangirl, and I totally lied. Totally lied. I'm fangirling. But before we get going on this, because I'm going to try hard not to keep you here all day long, I promise, I always like to start by setting an intention. An intention is how we want to feel and what we want to create together. It's truly that we're in partnership with the divine, and we're kind of like the traffic cops saying, this is where we want the energy to go through our conversation. Here's what we want to create. It's not like we've got a script. This is just the destination and how we want to feel as we're playing together. So I find it incredibly powerful to set an intention. Part of the reason why I do this, it's very interesting. The latest research shows that human beings have a shorter attention span than a goldfish. A little scary. We've got so much going on upstairs. There's so many different things commanding our time and our attention that we're fractioned. We're all over the place. And from my perspective, we are in partnership with the God of your understanding. We are explaining what we want to create, and we're helping direct that divine energy towards what we want to create. So I have a very specific way that I structure the intention. I always start with in love and light. To me, that's just acknowledging that the God of your understanding is an active participant in helping make this happen. We're not all on our own. Shel and I have an invisible supporter who's bringing this all together and connecting your energy with ours. You will always have access to this kind of abundance amplifier just because you've paid attention, listened, or watched this episode. It's that simple. So it starts with in love and light, and then we say the intention, and that's really where we want to go. It's kind of like typing into a divine GPS. Then I always say thank you, and at the very end, I say it is done, and that's a reminder to us, to me, that I'm done typing. I don't have to keep typing. The divine gets it. This is what, okay, got it. I know that's what you want. And then we hold it in silence for 78 seconds. I guarantee you this is the only podcast, the only show where there's complete silence for 78 seconds. Now, there's two things that can make this really, really fun for you. The first one is identify 2 or 3 words that just resonate with you. They feel expansive and uplifting and empowering and like, wow, I will so enjoy having this experience. Pick those 2 or 3 words and just say them over and over again to yourself in your mind during those 78 seconds. The other thing to do is pay attention to your body, because your body's a great big antenna and you're noticing how the energy's starting to move. That's really what we're asking for with the intention. We want divine support to get the energy moving in this direction. For us, that can feel like goosebumps or ripples of heat or feeling. I get pixelated sometimes. I feel like my whole body is expanding. That's great. It's just a sign that the divine has already picked up on our vibration and is already starting to make it happen. So have fun with this. My experience of the divine is effervescent joy. Just over the top, happy, silly, outrageous, delighted, excited. Yeah, like a kid on Christmas morning. So if you feel silly doing this, great, you're on the right track. All right, Shel, here's our intention. In love and light, we hold the intention that we align with divine guidance to simultaneously fulfill our dreams and transform the world. Thank you, divine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done. We give thanks, and so it is. Wow. There's a lot of energy around that. Yeah. Shel, I am so excited about what you're up to, your vision, your passion, your commitment to making the world a better place, doing well by doing good. What got you started on this, and why are you so incredibly passionate about it?
Well, I like to say that it came out of some work I was doing in the community 25 years ago, but it actually goes back, I realized, quite a bit farther than that. When I began to embrace abundance, that was as it was falling into my life as a high school student, and it was non-monetary abundance. I had basically been broke and continued to be broke for several years after, but I found that people would give me what I needed. It would just somehow appear, or opportunities would come into my lap. But let's fast forward to November 1999, when a developer announced that the mountain immediately next to the mountain you see out of my window was going to be the perfect place to put 40 McMansions. That mountain that you saw here is Mount Holyoke, a very famous mountain, which is a state park and for which a very famous college is named. And I was the one who said, no, you're not. And so I founded a movement with my wife called Save the Mountain. And the first few meetings were in my dining room. And we had 70 people jam themselves in there. You know, I was expecting 20 people would come to the meeting, 5 would get involved, we'd make the developer's life uncomfortable enough that in about 5 years he'd give up. Well, the abundant universe was out there waiting for me to do better than that, me and a lot of other people. So we had 70 people come to the meeting. We had, when the dust settled, an active core of about 30, 35 people. We had various subcommittees, and get this, we won. In 13 months flat, we protected that land. So I have been both an organizer, activist, and a marketer and copywriter since high school, both of those things. Actually, activism even earlier than that. 1969 was when I became an activist. I was only 12. And marketing came a few years later when I started trying to get more traction for the social change work I was doing. So this campaign took everything I knew about marketing and put it into an organizing context. And after we won, I started thinking, well, all of these business principles helped us win this, as well as the mindset that we were going to win, which, as you know, is incredibly important. And I have always credited that to why we won, is because we believed we would. And but I thought, how could I bring some of the stuff from the social change, environmental good world into the business community? And so by 2003, I put out the first of what are now 4 out of my 10 books are about how to find that synergy, how to find that secret sauce for your particular business or organization that allows you to do good in the world and also do good with your finances. So that's kind of the modern incarnation of all this work started with that. And
I love that. I love that. And I really hear something that you didn't say overtly, but I heard you say this. A form of abundance is your personal involvement and engagement. Something that's really important to you, something that you think will improve your community. When you get involved in something like that and you contribute your own gifts and skills and abilities, it gets amplified and sent back to you. That's why I really strongly feel that the kinds of things that you're doing are an abundance amplifier, because you are making a difference, not just for yourself, but for the entire community. You're finding ways to amplify abundance so that everybody benefits. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, you saw my TED Talk. I think there's a slide in there where I talk about the abundance falling on the earth every hour from solar power, which is enough to power all human needs for a year, every single hour. So the planet, the system, the solar system, it's all very abundant. I mean, I live on this beautiful farm. They converted to a power generation system that harnesses the cow poop and trucked in food waste from local restaurants that is heating my house and giving me hot water, along with 7 other houses on the farm, and sending enough electricity into the grid, green, clean electricity to power, I think it's 300 homes. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So you just, the whole world is a both and. You know, either or choices are so retro, shall we say.
They're so outdated. That's the problem. They are so outdated. Okay, before we go too far off on tangents, because I could talk to you all day, and I probably will try to. One of the challenges, you're doing social change, and the name of the show is The Abundance Journey. And I have never found 2 people that have the same definition of abundance. Given the kind of work that you do, the social change work, and how you're collaborating with businesses to create a synergy that amplifies abundance, how would you define abundance for the people that you work with?
Well, I'll define it for myself. I'm not going to pretend to speak for others with this definition. But abundance is opening yourself up to the probability that the universe is going to send you what you need. And I actually am working with one of the ways that I do this work is through book shepherding, is by helping people with books that are going to change the world become well-published, well-marketed authors. And I'm working with one now who has a book called Sufficiency, When is Enough Enough? And it's a different lens on abundance, but I mean, abundance doesn't mean you have to have 16 houses and 4 cars, you know. But it means, for me, I feel like I live a very abundant life because I am able to build in nature and exercise and good food and good relationships with people and travel to interesting places where I always learn stuff. I feel like every trip I take is a lesson in abundance. As a very concrete example, I went to Iceland in 2011 and I discovered the whole country is powered by renewable energy, other than at that time their vehicle fleet. You know, everything is either well, they have very little solar, but they have wind, geothermal, and hydro powering the whole country. So if they can do that in Iceland, I think we can do it here. We have far more solar resources. And where you live in the West, you're not so far from Arizona, New Mexico. My goodness, if every home in Arizona, every parking lot had a solar canopy over it, that would probably power 6 or 7 states.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that I find so fascinating, and I know you mentioned this in your TED Talk, there are, let's call them old-fashioned technologies, inventions, ideas that have been around for centuries in countries that we consider to be developing countries, but they have found really creative ways to harness water so that they have access to water year round, to make, store foods and preserve foods. There's all different kinds of methodologies that we've kind of forgotten about because we think the newest, latest invention is going to be so much more powerful. And yet you pointed out a few different things that are readily available right now that people have proven are effective centuries ago. And we just forgot about them. Would you mind just sharing one example with us right now?
Well, I think there's a whole lot of indigenous wisdom that as it combines with modern technology, it's going to be the spiral. It's going to create something bigger than either of those things. But let's just look at organic food. So organic food was all there was until probably the late 19th century, and it was most of what there was until the 1940s and the badly misnamed Green Revolution. Which was actually a way of poisoning the land and in the long term reducing yields and all sorts of negative effects. But the interesting thing is after about 40 years of that, people started to go back to look at the organic world again and think, okay, let's see if there are ways that we can do organic food where it has just as high yield as chemiculture, tastes better, has more nutrition. Let's see if we can grow it closer to the places where it's being consumed. So you have the whole farmers market movement, you have community gardens, all of these different things coming together. And you have now organic agriculture that's way better than it was 50 years ago. And a lot of that is because people went back and looked at things like permaculture and how plants grow together in synergistic ways. And, that I'm sure you're familiar with the corn, squash, beans trilogy of
Sure.
indigenous people from the Americas for like 10,000 years. So that's really exciting to me to go back to those things. And also the whole idea of biomimicry. There's a wonderful TED Talk, real TED Talk, by Janine Benyus. That's Janine, last name B, like boy, Enus. Sorry, YUS, I think it's. And she talks about how in India, you have 11 months of drought and 1 month of drench. And so the land designs itself for that. And one of my favorite moments in that TEDx is where I say, if you want to know about bridge building, go ask a spider. Because they know.
Really?
So, I'm a sponge for knowledge. I'm always looking for how people are doing things differently and how can I popularize what they're doing. I do see myself in my speaking and writing as somebody who takes these ideas that maybe are the hands of arcane scientific journals and say, okay, this is what we can do in plain, ordinary language. And here's a very, very concrete example. You live in California. You went through about a decade of drought not all that long ago, and you were doing water conservation things that we in the Northeast, we didn't feel like we had to do. But here's a little mantra of mine, is that conservation, frugality, can create abundance. So in the case of water, most Americans, when they brush their teeth, they turn the water on full force. They let it run the whole 3 minutes that you're supposed to brush your teeth. Gallons and gallons and gallons of water going down the sink. The frugal and conservationist approach is you turn on the tap or a little stream, you stick your toothbrush under it, you turn the water off. You add the toothpaste, you brush. At the end of those 3 minutes, then you turn the water back on to rinse the toothpaste off your toothbrush, and you're done, and you have consumed teaspoons of water, not gallons. If everybody who's watching this were to adopt that, and then to get 5 other people to adopt that, we would create a water resource of tens of millions of gallons that is going to be otherwise squandered. And we're going to be able to pass that on to our kids and their kids, and on it goes. And so to me, humans have to be very much a part of the change. And we can't just sit back and wait for it to happen. And there's a million things we can do, as well as making sure that we pressure the business community to do the right thing and to do it the right way, which is a big difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And obviously you work with a wide variety of different companies and nonprofits. What is a common denominator that they all have where they go, wow, really got to talk to Shel because I'm ready to amplify abundance for my business, for my nonprofit? What's that tipping point? What's that moment, what am I looking for? The word, that incentive. What pushes them to get in touch with you? When are they ready for this?
Well, I love the old phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And in some cases, I get to be that teacher. And in other cases, I get to be the student. I'm still always in learning mode. And so one thing that they would all have in common is a desire to incorporate environmental good and social change into the business in a way that is good for the business. And the interesting thing, Elaine, is that it's actually better for business in many respects. You have wonderful PR, you have repeat clients or customers, you have loyal employees who not only stay with you for years, but when you have a vacancy, they say, oh, my cousin would be perfect for that. Can I tell them about it? So your recruiting cost is down. And of course, because they stay longer, because they like what you're doing. So, benefits for everybody. I'm a big believer in win, 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 win. That we do not have to live in a win-lose world.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think it's complicated. And I think maybe thinking through, all the moving parts and seeing how they all fit together, maybe that part's a little bit complicated, but you've been doing this for years. And so you've seen how you can make it a little bit easier for people to grasp that bigger picture.
One of the people I profile in the book, and I think he's in the TED Talk too, is John Todd from the New Alchemy Institute. And he develops these systems to unpollute lakes. And they're very complicated. They might have 25,000 different plants, each doing one function. But the overall effect is you get a restored lake that is clean enough to drink out of and swim in, from a place that most of the world would have walked away from and said, that's a toxic hellhole, we're never going to clean it up. So sometimes it is complicated, but sometimes it's really simple. Solar power is really simple, even if you don't have the complexities of photovoltaic. If you heat water with solar and you drain it if you live in a place where the water freezes in the winter, if you drain the tank in November and then fill it up again in April, you can, for, $50 or $100, you can put together something that is going to reduce your load on the carbon footprint and give you a source of hot water. It could be as simple as putting a black hose out in your yard and letting the little 1-gallon tank that's attached to it get hot. Or it could be something far more elaborate. And if you're building a building from scratch, you should do the more elaborate stuff. But all of us can do the simple things. We can all caulk our leaks, and we can all wrap our pipes, and we can all I wash my clothes in cold water, and I use a laundry ball. I used to use a cold water detergent, but then I got given this little thing. It's I don't quite understand how it works. It involves enzymes. My clothes come out fine, and they only can use cold water with that system. Heating the water is a huge waste of resources. So if you can do your wash in cold water, you are saving many gallons of fossil fuel if you're heating your house with fossil fuel. And on it goes.
I love it.
So, and of course, this does not let us off the hook for reminding the corporate and institutional parts of our economy they've got work to do too. And all of the changes that we as individuals do not add up to a molecule of what can be done when a big company gets involved. And oddly enough, one of the examples I often cite is Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
And Walmart is not a client of mine. And Walmart is a company that for a long time we tree huggers loved to hate. And I think it was in the 1990s that a new CEO named Lee Scott, who has since moved on, who decided that they could perhaps get some benefit for their terrible reputation by actually becoming a very green company. So when I was researching my book, I discovered that at that time, I don't know if it's still true, Walmart sold more organic food than Whole Foods. And here's the really fascinating part. The people who are buying organic food in Walmart ain't never going to go to Whole Foods. It's a truck driver from Mississippi. It's a nurse's assistant from Idaho. It's working class American people. And they're buying not only organic foods, they're buying low wattage light bulbs and lots of conservation products. And they're doing it for a company that is decidedly not tree huggerish, that is all about the bottom line, but has done more for the environment than I will ever do if I'm consulting for another 40, 50 years.
Well, the thing that really comes to me as you're talking about this, whenever we talk about abundance, people usually go right to finances. And there are three things you can do to improve your finances. You can make more money. That's one. Number two, you can save more money. And number three, you can keep more money. In other words, reduce your taxes.
Yeah.
Those are really the three big ways that you can make more money. So what I like about your example with Walmart, because I know that they're huge warehouses. Every single Walmart store is massive. And they've got all this room on the roof. A lot of the stores have solar up there. And I also know that they placed a massive order for Tesla trucks, the freight trucks, so that they could have a much lower footprint that way.
Even before that, they did a lot to lower the fuel use of the fossil fuel trucks, the diesels that they were running. Now, I have to say that I personally don't shop at Walmart. I have big issues with their store siting policies, their labor policies, and a bunch of other stuff. So I am not a customer of theirs, as well as they are not a client of mine. But I have tremendous admiration for what they have done to bring these technologies to everyday life. And they actually, if you have too much packaging, Walmart will make you redesign your packaging before they'll take your product on.
Ooh, I'm glad to hear that. I would love for everybody to get rid of those blister packs. Mm-hmm. I think you can take your fingers off of those things. They are not my favorite. Now, I want to ask you something, because I know that typically when we want our external world to change, something has to change inside us. Now, you might be talking about an individual, you might be talking about a corporation or a nonprofit. What has to shift in your thinking, in your perspective, so that you can be receptive to this approach that really helps amplify abundance?
Okay, here is a big abundance amplification that I'm coming up with right now. Business often is a taker economy, an extractive economy. They pull resources out that they claim are theirs, but are really in the public good. I'm reading a very interesting book now on commenting and reversing some of that by a man named David Bollier. But when you have that attitude, you're not going to be a good corporate citizen. You're going to say, I'm going to get what's mine and the hell with everybody else, and I don't care if I strip the land and it's not able to produce anything for the next 50 years. That's not a healthy attitude, and it's a very short-term thinking, because we all have to live here. Most of us have other generations we want to pass a legacy to. Even if we don't have kids, we might have a favorite niece or nephew, or whatever the non-gender term is these days. We have a heritage of natural beauty as well as natural resources, and all of these things need to be looked at. So a big change is to go from being just a taker to being a contributor, to doing things in a systemic and sustainable, and I like to say regenerative way, so that the cycles can continue. And there are some great examples of this in the corporate world. One that I particularly love because he really had a conversion experience was Ray Anderson, the founder of the flooring company Interface. Ray passed on a few years ago, but his company has continued his legacy, and it is a wonderful legacy. They are always looking for how can a flooring company be more environmentally friendly and socially just. So they've done things like they've taken people out to go harvest old abandoned nylon fishing nets in the ocean, and they make floor tiles out.
Oh, really?
Yes, really.
Wow.
And they've kind of invented modular floor tiles so that if you're in a high traffic area and these 4 tiles that are between your chair and your door are totally worn out, you yank out those 4 tiles and not the whole floor, and you put in 4 new ones.
Genius! Genius! Yeah, love that.
So that's one lovely example. One of the biggest companies in the world is Unilever.
Yeah, Unilever, yeah.
Has been about social good all the way back to the 18 whatevers. Interestingly enough, one industry that is very strange to look at is chocolate, because chocolate was mostly started by social pioneers. Milton Hershey did amazing things for his workers. Cadbury, I think they were a pair of brothers in England. These were socially conscious, and Cadbury's, I think, were Quaker enterprises as a way of creating decent, well-paying jobs that were not polluting and that helped people feed their family in a good way. And then somewhere along the way, corporate America kind of took those companies over, and corporate UK, and they lost their way. But now they're finding their way back. But Unilever, all along, has had a social good component. That's the reason why when Ben & Jerry's decided they had to sell out to a bigger company, they chose Unilever, because Unilever allowed them to keep their very unique management. And Ben & Jerry's is still self-governing within Unilever. And Paul Polman, who was at the time the CEO of Unilever, said he wanted that acquisition because he was hoping some of those values would percolate up from Ben & Jerry's to the other, 300-400 companies they've got in that umbrella. And it did.
Oh, wow.
That they pioneered that is now kind of mainstream in Unilever.
That's so wonderful to hear, because we don't usually hear that part of it, right? We usually hear all the disasters and all the horrible things that people are doing, and yet there's so much innovation, there's so much creativity, there's so many opportunities to really improve our world and improve our lives at the same time. Now, sadly, I bet, Shel, I wish you had a magic wand and you could just go, okay, poof, now you're good. But that's probably not how things work in the real world. What's 1 or 2 little baby steps that we could take
before
as
I go
individuals?
there,
go ahead.
I've given 2 mega corporate examples. I want to give a small business example.
Sure.
So Dean's Beans, a coffee roasting company in Orange, Massachusetts, not far from me. Dean Sycon started this company specifically to do good in the world and has, from the get-go, made a healthy profit. He recently arranged to transfer ownership to his employees, so it's now a worker-owned business. But he started, I think, in 1993. Every single coffee bean, every single cacao bean, organic and fair trade, and portions of the profits go into village-led, community-led development projects in the coffee lands where he's sourcing his coffee. He funds them, they organize and design, and he gives them some resources to carry them out. Okay, so I need you now you wanted to know one thing. I forgot the second half. One thing.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. So say I, as an individual or as a company, I want to start really working my way in this direction. I probably can't make a super transition overnight, but I need to start baby steps. What is 1 or 2 baby steps that we can take that'll get us going towards this idea?
Well, one that I'd recommend is a social good audit, and disclosure, this is something that I'm happy to do for companies, where we look at, okay, what are the products and services that you make? What kinds of supply chains do you have? How can we find a product or service or multiple products and services that are going to do both social and economic and environmental good. Excuse the grammar there. You can't have both with three things. But all of those things. And that's going to be very different for every company. So there's not one pat solution, but like at one point I was doing an interview like this, and the interviewer said to me, well, this is all very well and good, but what would you do for something like a pizza shop? I said, oh, cool. Let me think about that for a moment. Never been asked that question before. How about this? The pizza shop owner recruits a bunch of inner city high school kids to make pizzas, sell pizzas, maybe even to grow tomatoes and garlic and onions for the pizzas. And they go to the school on Friday and say, we're going to bring homemade pizzas in on Monday. Who would like to order some? And they collect the money up front. And then they go, and meanwhile, if you're familiar with quick service restaurants, Monday's a horrible day. There's many of them closed because there's just nobody coming in. So you turn the business owner's dead day into a profit stream where you have pre-sold, managed quantities, no waste. You give the kids entrepreneurial skills as well as hands-on manufacturing skills in this environment. You give the other kids, their customers, artisan, high-quality, nutritious, and very tasty pizza. This is what I mean when I say you can do the win-win-win-win. So obviously, what works for a pizza shop is not going to work for a furniture dealer, But the big thing is to say, what can my business do or my organization or my family? And as I said, I'm totally willing to consult on that. It's not usually that hard for me to figure out something.
That is so exciting because it's so available.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is we just haven't thought this way before. We just haven't approached things this way before.
Abundance mindset. It's what you always talk about.
It is. It's about mindset for sure. And knowing that this is possible and then getting that sense of curiosity and wonder and start researching it, start exploring the different options that are available. Now, you also have your new book out, your Guerrilla book. Could you hold that up one more time?
This is Guerrilla Marketing to Heal the World. It is my newest book. It's not all that new anymore, but it's still, everything that is in there is really good. There's another 100 pages I could write, particularly on some of the social change aspects that this book was written for a mainstream business audience, and I would like to have said more about those things. I say some, but I don't really, for example, address racism very much in this book.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have a climate where that message is much more well received, and I could have put more in that would have been helpful for people now. But I have the knowledge. It's just a matter of people have to pay me one-on-one for it or hire me to give us a talk or whatever. But
Right. Well, I think it's so important. And so I can't wait to get my copy of that book because I'm sure that will spark a lot of ideas on things that I can do as a consumer as well as things that I can do for my business.
And the book is an example of an abundance mindset in its creation, because the book was a collaboration between me and somebody who was ostensibly a competitor. J. Conrad Levinson, who created the marketing brand, was also a speaker, also a marketing consultant, did a lot of the same things I did them for much better paying and more well-known companies than I do. But, when I approached him, he was thrilled to be a partner with me on this project. And then I had approached him at the time when I didn't have a publisher for the first guerrilla marketing book we did together, which was Guerrilla Marketing Goes Green. And John Wiley and Sons, big New York publisher, eventually published that. But in the meantime, I had to say to them, well, what do you think if they had actually bitten on a proposal I had sent them for a re-release of my first book in this genre, which was called Principle to Profit. And it came out as Guerrilla Marketing Goes Green with Jay's name also on the cover. And they said, oh, you mean we get two marketing gurus? We like it. And for me, just on the dollars and cents, what Wiley typically paid for a mid-list marketing book, and I had several friends who had done mid-list marketing books for them, which is like you're not a superstar, but you're not in the slush pile either. They paid at that time in advance of $15,000. So they offered me $25 to do this, and I said, I have to share it with Jay. Can you go up? And they said, well, do 30. Well, 30 divided by 2 is exactly 15. So I got exactly the same advance I would get, but I got access to Jay's 86,000 member community. I did a couple of interviews for them. I've spoken at their conference. There's been a lot of benefits to me. That book opened many, many doors for me that my self-published book did not.
That's wonderful. And I'm so glad that it's doing great and that you're able to share this message, because it's a very important message. People don't always think about how what we do and how we are being through our actions really makes a difference in the world. It ripples out to the rest of the world.
And now you're talking to the activist part of me, who says all the time, one person can make a difference, but that difference is much amplified if you bring other people in to do it with you.
Yes.
That's how we saved the mountain. It wasn't just me. We had a movement.
You bring other people to do it with you, and you partner with organizations who are amplifying things too. That's the thing. Yes, you're only you, but you bring your friends and you align with corporations and nonprofits who share your vision of what you can create
side,
together.
I've been doing a lot of immigration justice work since 2019, and the group I work in is tiny. I mean, really tiny. I mean, counting on your fingers tiny. But we partner locally, statewide, nationally, and even some internationally. And we have leveraged, our tiny little group has really made a huge impact in our local area and been useful in other places. We did a week of Witness on the Border just before the pandemic, and that was very powerful for us and also very helpful for the people who were down there. And we do what we can, and we always can do more than we think we can.
Always. And you don't realize how getting involved and sharing your voice, sharing your vision, being a contributor to social movements can really change our world for the better. Now, Shel, you very generously offered a fabulous free gift. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
I've got a few free gifts, actually.
Excellent. We'll take them.
Phone up here so I can see what I wrote to you.
No, you said 5 ways your social impact business can thrive by creating wins for people, planet, and profit.
Here, so yes, 5 ways here, and also Painless Green, which is an ebook that has 111 ways to save energy and water. And I'm going to add one more, which is an e-copy of The Penny Pinching Hedonist, my book on having fun cheaply, which was really my doorway to abundance thinking on a social level beyond the individual level. I wrote that book back in 1995, so it doesn't cover the internet, blah, blah, blah. But what it does cover is still very, very useful, and everything is still accurate, except you pretty much have to triple all the prices I quote.
Life does change. It does.
So the business things are at goingbeyondsustainability.com/freebies. And The Penny Pinching Hedonist is not on that page. So you'll have to actually write to me and say, I watched your podcast with Elaine and I want a copy of The Penny Pinching Hedonist, and I will email it to you.
That's great. Make sure that you check the show notes, because I'll have a link to his free gifts, and I'll also make sure that his email address is in the show notes so that you can reach out to Shel directly. Now, Shel, one of the things that we do that's a little bit odd, we love to turn the tables on our guests, because we know that when we give is when we truly receive the most. So what is one thing that we can do to support you?
Well, interestingly enough, in this win-win-win mentality, you can sign up at that freebies page for a free consult with me. And the normal offer is 15 minutes. But if you mention this podcast, it goes up to 30. And in that time, we can really explore, we can get you on the path to what is the best thing for your particular organization, your particular business, to combine social good, environmental good, and a successful business. So we can get you started on that in that short amount of time. And how do I benefit from that? Well, first, obviously, I hope that you will become a client after that call. But more importantly, I am in this for selfish reasons. I want a better world because I want to live in a better world. So if the business that you create, or the sideline or new product or whatever, that your new offer that you're doing in your business comes out of that conversation and is making the world better, then I get to have some nice ego boost, and I get to feel really good about the impact I'm making. And it's, when you're an activist, knowing that you have an impact is really important, and not all of us get to do that. I've been very lucky to be part of a few victories. Save the Mountain being the most obvious one, but also my one and only arrest was at the Seabrook Nuclear Power Plant construction site in 1977, along with, again, this is people coming together, 1,413 other people.
Wow.
And, we pretty much, we were a big story in New Hampshire for about a month. And we came out of there discovering that we had started a national movement. We had no idea that when we were in the National Guard armories, they didn't have enough prison cells for us. So they stuck us in National Guard armories. And, we came out and there's the Abalone Alliance near you in California and the Sunflower Alliance in Kansas, and all over the country, people were galvanized by what we did. We had no idea. And then when 3 Mile Island happened 2 years later, this is really interesting to me because I think of what we had done at Seabrook and because of the national pressure that created. That story was news. Now, that was not the first scary nuclear accident in the United States. There were at least 2 earlier ones that you didn't hear about.
No.
So this movement had an enormous impact.
Yes, it sure did. And, Shel, I just really want to commend you. I so appreciate you taking the time, but you're a real inspiration to how an individual can hold their values and express their values in a compelling, creative way, collaboratively with other people, and really make a difference in the world. You've made my life a little difficult because I have to do the Activate Abundance segment, and I've got pages of notes from all that you shared. It was so good. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to have to keep talking to you for a few more hours. You don't need to sleep, do you?
There's a lot more that I could tell you. But thank you for those compliments. It's nice to hear that I've done, basically adding value for the last half hour without a break. So.
Yeah, this is really fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want everybody to stick around because we're going to activate abundance in just a minute. Hi, it's Elaine Starling, the Abundance Ambassador, and I know since you're listening to this show or watching this show, The Abundance Journey, you really want to experience more abundance in your life. Well, that's why I wrote the book, 5 Steps to Activate Your Abundance. It's available for sale right now from Amazon, from barnesandnoble.com, and many international sellers. And I want you to pick up a copy because I'm really opening the kimono here and sharing all of the information you need to experience abundance in every single aspect of your life. The book's divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is called Meeting the Divine. This is where I share my near-death experience and the conversation I got to have with our higher power during my stroke. In Part 2, Messages from the Divine, I share the best practices that I was given, the secret sauce in how life actually works. And so you understand really why you're here and how you can make the most of your life so you love every single moment. And then in the Part 3 is Partnering with the Divine. That's where I go into each of the 5 steps to activate your abundance and explain exactly why it works so well. So take a moment to pick up a copy. It's available as an ebook, a paperback book, an audiobook, and a video course. So however you like to absorb information, abundance is waiting for you. I love Shel. Isn't he amazing? Step 1, gratitude. I really love speaking with smart people who open me up to new perspectives and new ideas. And Shel is just bubbling forth. He's like this unending Niagara Falls of brilliance with all these different opportunities that we have to make a difference in the world and make a difference for ourselves at the same time. I'm so grateful for Shel for opening my eyes to all these different possibilities. Wow! He made my life difficult by only picking one thing that I can activate abundance around. So I'm going to acknowledge something he said that was a real aha for me. I loved his definition of abundance. His definition of abundance was opening yourself up to the probability that the universe will support you. I totally get that. You are in partnership with the divine. And so often we make the mistake of thinking it's all on us. We have to figure everything out on our own. And then we feel kind of screwed. Like, how in the world can I, little old me, make any difference at all? Well, in reality, when you're willing to step up and open to that possibility that the universe will support you as you start to take action towards your dreams, it's unfolding for you. It's not like a blank and everything's there. It's an ongoing process with the individual leaves opening and flourishing and creating even new, better possibilities for you that you never would have imagined. That's what's so exciting to me. I love that definition. Step 3, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Well, when you feel like the universe is supporting you and you're receiving guidance along the way, it's not like you get this massive download where everything's all there at once and you can't keep track of it all. No, you're taking action and you get more guidance, and you take more action and you get more guidance, and you take more action and you get more guidance. It's a nice, beautiful unfolding, a joyous celebration of life. And it's only possible when you're willing to open yourself up to the possibility that the universe is supporting you. When that is your default, and that is your come from, and that is your mindset, all of a sudden your peripheral vision is open and you're able to pick up on stray little bits of ideas that are actually that guidance that you're looking for, and it takes you in exactly the right direction. Amazing. Step 1 is gratitude. Step 2 is to acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. Step 3 is appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Step 4, activate it. This is where the rubber meets the road and we actually take action. There's 3 different ways we can activate abundance. The first one is grab a calendar and schedule time. You might want to schedule time to read Shel's book, or schedule time to get on his calendar and have a conversation. Schedule time to get things done, to journal. That's a really fabulous way to take action towards your dreams. The second way is to use a physical trigger like tugging on your earlobe or crossing your fingers as a reminder, the universe has my back. The universe is supporting me. I'm receiving guidance all the time. I wonder what the guidance might be. If I'm not tuned into it, if I'm not open to receiving it, I can't receive it. It's all on me to be willing to receive it. And that means I have to have an expectation that it's there. It's not going to be obvious. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt. You got to dig under the bushes and you got to go through the cluttered rooms to find just the right thing that's perfect for you, that's in alignment with you. And when you're in that space and you remind yourself with a physical trigger, you're much more receptive to the ideas. The third way to activate abundance is declare what you're going to do. And maybe your declaration is, I'm going to find ways to incorporate the social improvement, the environmental improvement, and improve my business all at the same time. And I don't have to reinvent the wheel myself. Instead, I'm going to get curious. I'm going to join organizations. I'm going to partner with other people who have identified different techniques that really work to improve your business and improve the planet at the same time. Don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to figure it out all on your own. A lot of resources already exist. You just don't know about them. So how exciting that there's this incredible journey that you get to go on and meet like-minded people who will love to support you. How cool is that? I'm doing all 3. I can't decide. They're all so good. I think it's really important that I incorporate everything I do so that I'm amplifying abundance automatically. And I'm really committed to making that happen. So I'm doing all 3 to activate abundance. Step 5, celebrate your progress. Isn't it exciting when you have a new perspective that can truly amplify what you're doing, that can take what you're doing that's already really powerful, that's already making a massive difference, and make it even more effective, help reach more people, help make a bigger difference. It's you being the best you can be and empowering others to be their best selves at the same time. Thank you, God. How can it get even better than this? This is so wonderful. I'm really grateful that you joined me today. I'll see you next time for the Abundance Journey.
You've been listening to the Abundance Journey Show with Elaine Starling. Visit theabundancejourney.com/podcast gifts to access today's gift, as well as gifts from our other guests. Tune in every week to activate abundance in your life and business. If something resonated with you, please share it with your friends so they can benefit too. Keep activating abundance, and we'll see you in the next episode.